بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أسعد الله مساءكم جميعا. Good evening ladies and gentlemen. دكتور محمود تفضل. دكتورة وجدان تفضلي. مساء الخير مرة ثانية. I was hesitant either to speak in Arabic or to speak in English, but it sounds to me that we have some as well English-speaking participants. Therefore, I will continue to speak in English, and I would request my colleagues as well to speak in English. My name is Ziyad Alawneh. I am from Jordan. And I will, I wear two hats. One is the smaller hats, Land and the Human to Advocate Progress, which is a Jordanian NGO, a member of Land and the Arab Network for Environment and Development. And this is where the event is actually co-organized by the Arab Network for Environment and Development, as well as the Green Generation Foundation, represented by Dr. Dheaya Alrousan, sitting over there. But the lead organization for this event is the Kuwaiti Society for Environmental Protection, represented by Dr. Wijdan Aloqab from Kuwait. I warmly welcome you, and Dr. Emad, who is supposed to be chairing this session, will be joining us soon. He is in a different meeting for some short time. In view of the fact that I have an intervention for about 10 minutes presenting a national, local-based solution project in Jordan funded by the Canada Fund. Let me first welcome Dr. Mahmoud Fathallah, who is رئيس الأمان الفنية for the Arab Council Ministers in the Arab League. In addition to my colleagues, I welcome as well Engineer Bilal Shakareen. Bilal Shakareen, he's from the Ministry of Environment in Jordan, and he is the national focal point for the Climate Change Convention. He is the head of the Department of the Climate Change within the Ministry of Environment. I have already welcomed Dr. Wijdan Aloqab, as well as Dr. Dheaya Alrousan, who is a professor in the Al-Hashimiyya University, but he's leading a group of young Jordanians marching for the sake of protecting and making our life greener. Let me quote some of the statements before I invite the speakers to make their interventions. Each speaker is allowed to speak for 10 minutes. So we'll have all of them presenting their interventions, and then we'll open the floor for discussion. The title of this side event is Addressing Financial and Capacity Challenges for Climate Adaptation Towards Strengthened Resilience, with highlight on nature-based solutions in the Arab region. And I would assume that there are some success stories and case studies coming from our region, which is coming bottom up, leading into securing finance and strengthening the capacity and resilience of local communities in the Arab world. Let me say that nature-based solutions, if delivered appropriately, can significantly contribute to addressing multiple societal challenges. They target major challenges like climate change, disaster risk reduction. I am going to present something on disaster risk reduction, which is a local-based solution, food and water security, biodiversity loss and human communities, and human health, and are critical to sustainable economic development, active inclusion of communities, women, and youth. And Dr. Dheaya is going to present something about youth and link this into climate change, finance, and enabling and capacity building. Can help reduce climate change, but need to be combined with rapid cuts to greenhouse gases emissions and cannot solve climate change on their own. And I am actually looking forward to hear Dr. Bilal, who is attending the negotiations, probably can tell us something what's going on regarding finance. Nature-based solutions addresses societal challenges through the protection, sustainable management, and restoration of both natural and modified ecosystems, benefiting both biodiversity and human well-being. So now I will turn into my speakers, and I will invite first Engineer Bilal Shakareen from the Ministry of Environment in Jordan, who is the national focal point for the convention, to make his intervention. And once again, kindly consider 10 minutes for your intervention. Thank you.
Hello, this works? Okay. Well, thank you, distinguished guests. Thank you, Mr. Ziyad. Okay. Well, thank you, distinguished guests. Thank you, Mr. Ziyad, and thank the speakers that we are joining here. About climate finance, it's the most problematic issue in the convention, and it is the most problematic issue all parties is facing now and trying to solve in a way or another. Well, we've just finalized a climate finance, a ministerial high-level dialogue for climate finance, and within that we've touched some bases which sorry for that, which can make us optimistic, and also what makes us optimistic that we are in the beloved Egypt, and the presidency of this COP, the Egyptian presidency is working also to enhance the access for finance and climate finance within that. Well, climate finance has had several steps in order to be formulated. First, at the beginning, everybody were talking about the finance for mitigation, due to that mitigation is a very fast-track projects and a very measurable results. So once you are doing any mitigation project, let's say solar farm or wind farm, you are directly collecting electricity. It is measured easily, and it is sold within the electricity you are distributing to consumers. So within that you have a revenue, and within that revenue you have to pay back the fund that you've received. So mostly the mitigation project comes in a financial tools, which is either loans or equity, and different kinds of loans, whether it was concessional or whether it was a very ordinary commercial loans. But at the same time, for the adaptation scheme, always financial institutions and donors, they try to avoid the adaptation scheme. Why is that? Because you are working a project which will need mostly grants, because adaptation mostly is within the hand of governments It talks about forests. It talks about forests. It talks about water. It talks about communities, education, awareness about climate change, and usually this doesn't come with the revenue. So whomever take those grants cannot take it as a loan and pay it back. So when the adaptation fund been created, it was created also within a very small portion of finance, maybe about 10 million for each country. But within that 10 million, the increase of the climate crisis and affections worldwide made the urgency at the UN Assembly to say that we should go within climate adaptation to raise the resilience and to raise the fund of adaptation. So it was doubled during Glasgow, and hopefully that's what we are looking for and what we are touching, that it will be also doubled here in Egypt, so that we can have much more finance for adaptation, that we can use it to build up our capacity and raise our resilience to adapt within the climate change issues. The rest of the climate, there was climate finance, there was a pledge by the developed country. It was during 2009 to secure 100 billion per year for 5 years, and it was to begin during 2020 until 2025, but this commitment is not yet achieved. Hopefully that it will be achieved during this COP, so that they began during 2023 to find and to bring the financial resources for developing countries so that they can fulfill their commitment to climate change. This is something. The other thing is that we should diversify the sources of fund. We are talking about lots of other sources of fund. It has to be from the public sector, from the country itself. It has to be blended with the private sector at the country itself, so that it could be used, any climate responsive project, the private investment in that country, and also it has to have some blended financial tools from outside, whether it was grants, whether it was concessional loans, or whether it was equity, or an investment toward the causes that they are working on. So in order to do that, and in order to engage them and encourage those financial resources to invest in climate response in our countries, in our developing countries, it was requested from countries to fulfill their NDCs, to translate their NDCs into action plans, and within that action plans to try to develop some cost-benefit analysis for those projects in order to be shaped well and in a bankable shape that banks, MDPs, financial resources would like it and would invest within it, so that the project seems clear, what's the cost components and what is the results, and what would give benefits, whether it was financial benefit, or what is the benefit for the adaptation itself, or for carbon sequestration. So this is in general talking about climate finance. Talking about the nature-based solution. Nature-based solution is now the most important solutions that countries attending to have. Everybody, especially developed countries, raised the flag of reaching net zero emissions during 2050, and they cannot do that unless they are going within reforestation, or going within nature-based solutions so that they can create the balance between the increase of the emission and the carbon sequestration within nature-based solutions. The same, developing countries has to have within their adaptation scheme nature-based solutions so that we can use the traditional knowledge that we do have it in water harvesting, using the water in a very efficient irrigation ways, and reforestation, so in a way that would give a green economy and would give a biosphere reserves that would be benefit for us, for nature itself, for the ecosystem, and for those locals who are in those ecosystems. Within that, in a way or another, we are moving back sometimes into the traditional way of managing, let's say, rangelands or managing the kinds of farming. We are returning back to the best, to the best solutions and the best methodologies to reuse it within the available updated technologies in a way that give the efficient use of nature resources at the same time to give us the results at the same time, the third one result that gives the carbon sequestration which will make us in a way or another to adapt within climate affections and to fulfill our commitment within our committed NDCs to 2030. Those are the general comments on both. If there's any questions, I am at your disposal to answer it from all. Thank you, Mr. Ziyad.
Thank you, Engineer Bilal. We will just leave the questions till the end of the session. Allow me to invite Ms. Verdiane Nyiramana. She is the chair of the NBD Regional Board. Let me as well, during her coming to the podium, welcome Professor Michael Skoulos, who is the chairman of the Mediterranean Information Office for Education, Sustainable Development and Environment. Welcome. But I am welcoming everybody else as well. So now I invite Mr. Mahmoud Fathallah from LAS. Kindly, if you could make your intervention within 10 minutes, kindly, please.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to thank RAED and all organizers for this very important meeting. Actually, climate change and financing adaptation is very important, especially for the Arab region, as Arab region is heavily impacted with the climate change, and in LAS we just finished the Arab strategy for climate finance, depending on the needs-based assessment for the region. The problem in the region is as we have a very huge gap in financing adaptation, and the problem in this regard is the mismatching between the needs of finance and the available finance in international financial agencies. As international financial agencies have more than 70% of their available loans and facilities for only mitigation, and less than fourth of the all amount is only for the adaptation. While the need in the Arab region is mainly for adaptation. Now the strategy for enhancing the accessibility of Arab countries to the international agencies of finance, helping the countries to access finance by capacity building of how to preparing proposals for projects and adaptation projects. Also, we started coordination among Arab states and the GEF and the GCF to help the eligible Arab countries to have their amount of finance to their project. Now the needs-based, nature-based solutions is also very important as it will help in balancing the need for balancing the deterioration in the nature, like desertification and drought and many nature problem, and on the other hand, enhancing the capacity of the nature to continue and to be sustainable for the next generation of people in the world. So we hope that finalizing the climate finance strategy for Arab regions, helping the region to better access the finance in this in their project, especially the LDCs countries in Arab countries, as we have about 6 countries LDCs in the Arab region. So this is just a brief overview about our effort in dealing with the problem of financial issue in this regard. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mahmoud, for your kind intervention. And now I invite Ms. Verdiane, I hope that I am pronouncing your name correctly, the chair of the MBD Regional Board, kindly for your intervention. You've got 10 minutes as well.
Thank you so much. Yes, my name is Verdiane. Yeah. So Africa is the most vulnerable region in the world by the impact of climate change. Some studies suggest that damage from the impact of climate change in Africa will be even higher than other regions. So those impacts of climate change may be divided in two sectors or three sectors, which is health, agriculture, and water. Although the challenge for pursuing nature-based solution is in Africa many, the two main challenges involve climate action. As per question, the challenge is still the technical and the financial resources. So what do we need to do? As a civil society, we do robust the mobilization of resources and technical support. As a regional organization, which I'm representing here, the Nile Basin Discourse is a regional organization composed in operating in 10 countries. With our regional office is in Entebbe. It has been created in 2000 with the focus and the objective mainly for advocacy and bringing the community at the grassroots communities level for them to be at the same level of to really participating in the involvement of the climate change. The many objectives since their creation is the partnership between the public and private sector in order to address and increase the threat of climate change. NBD has been playing a role in making work policy, strategy, legal framework to attract many technology and climate resilience investment, while the private sector bring technology and finance. By doing that, NBD has been partnering with different regional organizations, intergovernmental or governmental, mainly the Nile Basin Initiative, which we have been partnering since 2003, but we formalized our MOU in 2014. So we always renew our MOU on every 4 years. Now we have a MOU which will run up to 2025. So the NBI mandates is to organize the platform for the Nile Basin government to dialogue, to cooperative development and management in the Nile River, water resources, design investment programs, and projects to be implemented by member governments. For NBD mandate is to mobilize the voice of grassroots communities, identify their concerns and priorities, and package the information and present to the same to the decision policymakers, to the government and intergovernmental. So this is influence decision policy strategy, program, and government intergovernmental. So mainly NBD as a civil society, our objective is to bring the concern of the communities at a really very low level, where we operate in 10 countries. We have members in the grassroots. We have now working with more than 600 organizations, the grassroots. I'm here by the invitation of our member of Egypt, NDF. So in every 10 countries, we have NDFs where we implement our activities. And after organizing all those 10 countries at the grassroots, we bring their concern to the government and to the policymakers. Actually, mainly that is our work as NBD. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Verdiane. Now I invite Dr. Dheaya Alrousan, who is a professor in Al-Hashimiyya University in Jordan, but he is leading a group of youth through an organization established a couple of years ago called, and it is actually the co-applicant with this side event. It's called Green Generation Foundation. Please, Dr. Dheaya.
Good evening, everyone. I guess it was a long day for each one of you, and you're almost tired of hearing a lot of talks during the day. So I will try to make it short, and we'll try to put this title you can see on the screen in the context of regional cooperation. Thinking about any climate change adaptation or resilience to the climate change negative impacts, actually could be thought about it or think about it in three levels: the national level and the regional level and the global level. And to be honest, the regional level is somehow shadowed by global development and the implementation on the national level, which is actually a very important issue that need to be included when we are talking about the Arab countries. We in the Arab countries have a lot of shared challenges. We are almost sharing the same challenges of water scarcity, desertification, reoccurrence of droughts, and thinking about those, they are adding a lot of pressure on other sectors, social, cultural, political, and so on. If we pick any or few of the topics that shared on the Arab countries, talking about example for water, for example, thinking about water, like 66% of the water on the Arab countries is shared with neighbors. 14 out of the 22 countries have transboundary surface water shared among them. If we talk about the desertification, for example, like the quarter desert, Sahara al-Kubra, that include or expand in Saudi Arabia, Yemen, United Arab Emirates, and Oman, actually is expanding and taking over the agricultural lands and the wetlands. If we talk about health, many vector-based diseases, or all vector-based diseases like malaria and yellow fever, they do not recognize the country borders. Sharing those challenges actually at somehow and some point could lead to conflict and tension between countries. So what we believe in Green Generation Foundation, that regional or sub-regional cooperation is some important issue need to be considered when talking about the Arab countries. And when I say the sub-regional, I don't mean the 22 Arab countries. This could be taken in the context of Mediterranean countries, the African Horn, the countries around the Red Sea arena, or even the Islamic Arab countries. This regional cooperation in most of situations doesn't consider the non-state actors. And one of the important non-state actors are the youth, which is characterized, like all the Arab countries, characterized by high percentage or large spectrum of youth in their community. If we talk about Jordan, from where I came, like almost 39% are youth, are between the age of 15 to 35. This large spectrum actually is one of the spectrums that will be highly affected by the climate change because they will live longer on this earth. And actually they will be, as we believe in a Green Generation Foundation, they will be the leaders of the future. So it's really important to understand how those youth are thinking about climate change, not just only in the national level and in our case Jordan only, but also on the whole region. But actually it's difficult to understand or study the whole region at once. So I will mention one of the projects that we are currently working at, which is named Red CNet. It's a project trying to understand how youth think about climate change in the countries around the Red Sea. This includes Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Oman, Yemen, Somaliland, Djibouti, Egypt, where we are now, and some other countries. And to understand how they think about it, they can take different dimensions. How they think about it from a point of risk perception. And also it's important to understand how they are thinking about it in terms of willingness to act. And this is important in capacity building. If I take the dimensions included in this study, it measures, for example, the knowledge. The knowledge in the Arab countries or the countries that we studied, actually we have low level of knowledge about climate change in those countries. I just, like a couple of minutes ago, I told Dr. Ghaida like a story with a taxi driver here. It's not related to the study, but because just I remembered that we have low level of knowledge. A taxi driver asked me why you are here. I told him we came like for a conference. He told me, what is it? I told him it's a climate change, and he told me why they want to change the climate. Like he's thinking we are here because we're gonna change the climate. Actually, we are here because to keep it from changing. Anyway, there is a low level of knowledge, and when I say there is a low level of knowledge, there is a low level of knowledge about the causes of the climate change. There is a low level of knowledge about the impacts of the climate change, and there is also a low level of knowledge about the response to climate change, how this will lead the future. In terms of willingness also, willingness to act. Willingness to act, if we consider it in many dimensions, there is willingness, personal willingness to act. And this is important if we are leading, for example, campaigns and we want to apply a policy. And this is very important for policymakers. And there's societal willingness. There's some stuff that we are not willing to change, but we want the community to change it, or the society around us to change it. And there's some stuff we are willing to advocate for, but without doing or paying anything. This includes the capacity and also include the finance, because when we talk about the willingness to act, there's a big difference between countries in this regard. They were like the countries included in the study, it has some let me say, wealthy countries, would not name those, and also have very poor countries. And without really understand how those people or those youth in those countries want to act regarding climate change, it will not be possible to build capacity or share information and knowledge or exchange research between those countries. This is one of the issues regarding the challenges to climate change we are addressing on the Green Generation Foundation. I told you I will try to make it short, not to get you bored, and if you have any question, I will be happy to answer it later on.
Thank you, Dr. Dheaya. Dr. Wijdan has chosen to be the last because she wants to show us a video, and which is a nature-based solution, and then she would make a comment. And therefore, I will take the liberty to make a short presentation about a project that we are currently implementing in Jordan and in the south part of Jordan. And in specific, for those who know Jordan, it's called Madaba, in specific Diban, and the South Jordan Valley. The project is titled Engaging Local Communities, especially women and young people, in disaster risk reduction by training and education. And the project would conclude at the end building the capacity of young people so that they would be able to help their communities once there are disasters induced in the majority by climate change. So in the two areas of the Jordan Valley and in the Iban, we will have 15 young Jordanians, gender balanced, who will be trained, enabled, so that they would help their families until the civil defense come and help them. Because these areas have witnessed in the past disasters during which we have lost lives. So to conclude, to reach this, we've done a desktop study. And then we had a field study, questionnaire type, 200 questionnaires per each area, through which we have concluded what are the disasters endangering these communities. And then we had a validation workshop. We wanted them to agree with what we have concluded, because what we have presented to them is something that comes from them, and they did validate. We had included 11 natural disasters and about 8 human-made disasters. Now we are going to build the capacity. We're going to come up with a training manual. We will train 15 stakeholders, then build the capacity of young Jordanians, how to deal with flood flush, how to deal with if there is a sliding in the soil, how to deal if there is an accident with chemical materials. And then we will have 15 community consultations during which we will educate and raise the awareness about the various disasters that they have concluded in their questionnaire. This is something I say, and I conclude that this is something comes bottom up. And this is something Dr. Mahmoud from LAS has mentioned, that we will help them in writing their proposals so that they could apply for donors and get some fund. Small funds, the accumulative small projects that are implemented at the local level by community-based organizations would have a say, would have a difference. And therefore, I strongly believe, that we have to depend totally on the local community, so that they would be the people who would help us in either, reforesting the land, increasing the vegetation cover, harvesting water, building gabions so that they would protect their soil to be eroded by when we have flash floods. And so this is actually what we are doing. And I am helping an organization in Jordan to come up with something called financial mobilization strategy. And I think this is going along with what Dr. Mahmoud from the last said, that maybe each small NGO has to come up with a financial mobilization strategy. It's not always that you have to approach a donor to get money. Sometimes you need to restructure yourself. Sometimes maybe to remanage yourself. Other times you have to network and establish partnerships. You could as well approach the private sector in your own country. You could go, I can go to the Ministry of Environment, they have a green fund, or they have an environmental fund. So therefore, I think the future, we're talking about nature-based solutions, it has to come from bottom up, and each has to think in a way, because you see the people were demonstrating saying it's an overdue of 100 billions over the past 2 years, and the rich countries are not paying any. So if they are not paying, and this is their contribution to some of them are due to their faults, then we have to act. And I think action has to come bottom up with the help of our governments, private sector, and all maybe academic institutions. So this is the project. This project actually we have implemented. Before that, this is funded by Canada Fund, which is a small, it's about 20,000 JD, 30,000 USD, but the impact is so huge. Sometimes you may have a small amount of money, but the impact would be huge. This project, similar to this project, we have implemented a regional project. And this included Egypt. RAED was the lead organization. We had Morocco, Mohammed with us. We had Salim from Lebanon. We had Yasser from Yemen, and us from Jordan, 5 countries. And this was funded by UNDRR, United Nations for Disaster Risk Reduction. Small amount of money makes a difference. And I think maybe we could, in the future, focus on this. And if we wait the big amount of money, I don't know if you agree with me, maybe they will not come and we will wait for long, but I think we have to act at our local communities. I will end here, and if you have any further questions on what I have presented, but I will invite now Dr. Wijdan to present her video first, make a comment, and then we will open the floor for discussion.
هذه أي وحدة؟ صوتي هني مو موجود. لا، ما في صوت من عنده.
القطائع النباتي في هالمنطقة عجيب. لقينا النباتات.
I'll talk as soon as they fix it.
لقيت الخزامة والبسباس والعرقي.
Before we start our video, I asked Mr. Ziyad to keep me for last. All the problems and all the study cases that my colleagues has been representing, I think if we don't have a proper education and we don't have a proper environmental awareness, it's gonna be really hard to do anything about it, okay? So, KEPS, Kuwait Environment Protection Society, we have dealt with many challenges. One of the challenges that we have is sometimes you will find people, even though you have protected areas, you will have people who can come inside the protected area and demolish or ruin this space, which is supposed to be protected, okay? And we have also the overkilling, and we have also the of the animals. You will see that a lot of problems, it can simply be cured if we have the proper environmental awareness. So for that, KEPS decided to establish this documentary series of the wildlife in Kuwait, state of Kuwait, to give the people, the community, a very good idea of how rich is the environment in Kuwait, okay, and this can happen in other countries, and they would know exactly the kind of biodiversity, how big is the biodiversity we have. I know that everyone would say that Kuwait is a very small country, it's a desert, we have 60% of our days are dusty, but still, we have more than 412 kind of birds that comes through Kuwait and some of them settles in. We have more than 400 kinds of plants between annual and the periodical ones. So it is a rich environment, but still, people, because we are already captivated in our homes under the air condition, okay? So our generations, they don't really see what beautiful biodiversity that we have in our country. So we decided to go on and start and I established this series, documentary series, back in 2014, Okay? Until now, we have 8 series, and we're already working on the 9th. Each series, each season will actually focus on one kind of animals or division. Like the first one was about birds, the second was about the plants, the third was about the intertidal zone, the animals in the intertidal zone. So tiny, so small, nobody knows how why important are those, how important are those animals. So within those documentary, we managed to give them the perfect and the most trusted scientific information about everything about the environment. So we started this, and if you are asking yourself what kind of difficulty and why is this related to finance, you will see it after the video. Again, we don't have voice.
معنا في برنامجنا كل يوم.
Yes.
حياكم الله معنا في برنامجنا كل يوم كشتة. اليوم رحلتنا من الديرة مع شركائنا في حماية البيئة، أمن الحدود في وزارة الداخلية.
This is of course
تنوع الغذاء
professional
النباتي
work,
في هالمنطقة
but
عجيب.
done by volunteers in KEPS. They are volunteering, but they are professional.
لقيت الخزامة والبسباس والعرفي.
This is in the borders of
حياكم الله
Kuwait.
مشاهدينا في برنامجنا كل يوم كشتة. كشتتنا اليوم في الحدود الشمالية الغربية من دولة الكويت، بالتحديد قطاع الأبرق من منطقة الشقاية. ارسمت سيول مياه الأمطار على مر السنين لوحة جميلة على خريطة الكويت. خلكم معانا نشوف الصخور اللي ظهرت في الشقوق.
Within the episodes, we try to focus on some more topography, the kind of habitat, and the kind of animals or vegetation in it. And along you will see that there are also definitions of some scientific information, like I'll see the next one. Yeah.
راح أشرح لكم شرح بسيط لطبقات الصخور في دولة الكويت، وهي تتكون من 3 طبقات. طبقة
She's
الجذبة
explaining
وهي سطحية،
the
وتحتها
sectors of
طبقة
the
فارس، وآخر واحدة
stones we
وأقدمها
have.
طبقة غار اللي تظهر فقط في جال الزور. والصخور اللي وراي هي صخور من طبقة فارس، سماكتها ما بين 30 ل 35، ومع هذا انكشفت على الرغم من انها كانت تحت طبقة الدبدبة اللي لها نفس السماكة بفعل عوامل التعرية من سيول مياه الأمطار وانجراف التربة. ونلاحظ هني أن الصخور تأثرت بعوامل التجوية من المياه اللي دخلت في شقوقها وتسببت في تشققاتها أكثر وكونت فواصل رأسية، وانفصلت الكتل الصخرية عن صخور الأم. كاميرات برنامج نسبة لحجم جسم.
Now there will be like a short explanation of the monitoring of the biodiversity and how do we take pictures of it.
عدد صدر 63.
This is the program, okay?
في دولة الكويت الكثير من عن الحيوانات البرية.
It's the documenting program at the borders of Kuwait. We chose the borders because this is a place that people cannot reach, so they can't see the biodiversity over there. In this season, we were able to get the borders at their screens, so they can see everything. This is the fox, the Arabian red fox.
واللي ألوانه باهتة بالنسبة للثعلب الأحمر الأوروبي نظراً لاختلاف
And this is the difference between the Arabian and the European.
اللي يقارب الثعلب الأحمر
And this is the sand
بالحجم.
fox.
وأصغر نوع هو
Those are the phoenix. We have them in Kuwait.
كبر حجم الإذن بالنسبة لحجم جسمه واللي يساعده على التخلص من الحرارة الزايدة وتبريد الجسم. الثعلب عموماً من الحيوانات الثدية اللحمة اللي تتغذى على الثدييات الصغيرة والقوارض مثل الجرابيع والحشرات، وله في حدود نص متر وارتفاعه أقل من 30 سنتيمتر. حيوان سريع توصل سرعته من 40 إلى 70 كيلومتر في الساعة حسب النوع. نسبة لهاوي اقتناء الحيوان سمعه قوي ويفضل العيش في الأماكن المفتوحة ويحفر لنفسه أنفاق
very short video, okay,
عدة مخارج
to highlight the life of a fox. This actually took a footage more than 1 week, 24 hours a day, with the settled cameras, infrared cameras and everything, just to come out with a very short video to demonstrate.
وفي المناطق الصحراء
اليوم التصوير ولا أروع منها لأن الجو اليوم
Those are some of the cameras we're using. Those are the drones. Even the drones, if we want to monitor the vegetation, we want to monitor the animals, there's no way you can use one drone. You need a drone which can tolerate the very speed wind, and you can have another one for the normal weather. But of course in Kuwait you never have a normal weather.
فعشان كذي أنا أخليها سبيك.
ليش عبانة هني؟
ممتاز.
Of course, the drones are useful for us to give us an aerial survey, okay? And this footage, usually no one can see this because this is in the borders and it's forbidden to have any cameras over there. But because KEPS is very trusted within the government, we have actually a memorandum with Ministry of Interior, and this is the first in Kuwait where an NGO can actually sign a memorandum with the Ministry of Interior. And also we were able, and we had the permission to get through those areas and have a full coverage and full footage. And of course, in our episodes also, we mean to get the other parties, the governmental parties. This lady is from EPA, and she's explaining the closest article of the environmental law that can match the subject of the episode. And here also, the police from the border police force, they are already participating in our work, so we can actually show the people that even though you are not an environmentalist, but if you can invest your specialty and your work, you can actually have a green print on the environment. So they are policemen, they are not environmentalists, but they can enforce the law. And they can also protect the area where it is enclosed.
عندنا القطع الكويت يعني شغلات نادرة فهم جزيل الشكر انهم قاعد يقومون يجون هني وياخذون خبرة اخواننا العسكر والغدامى
he's explaining one of the good things we did in the border.
في اخذ
border
يعني الشغلات اللي
guards
شافوها
are the people
والشغلات
who are
النادرة
there in
من
this area
حيوانات
for
ومن
years, so
على
they
قولتهم
know
يعني شو اسمه
exactly what's happening and what's
الأعشاب
changing.
اللي موجودة هني بدوت لكم.
We had a very good use of the memorandum. Now, the people, the guard at the borders, they can give us any information of any new animal, so we can go and monitor. They monitor it and they tell us, then we go and take a picture of it and document it. And this, of course, if you can hear this, I will close my mic. Here you can hear only the sound of the nature.
شفتوا معنا أعزائي المشاهدين حجم التنوع البيولوجي الموجود داخل الشقاية ما بين
And
حيوانات
at the end
وطيور
of
لقت
every
في مكان
episode,
آمن وملجأ
you will
ملائم
see
على
the
مدى
list
السنوات.
of
والنباتات الكثيرة اللي ميزت المنطقة
partners.
والأهم من هذا كله
Each
إن لمس دور منتسبي أمن الحدود في وزارة
not company,
الداخلية
each
ومساهمتهم
ministry
في رصد
and
الحياة
each
الفطرية.
authority,
وطبعا
they
وجود
have
حكم عملهم في الموقع يساعد
a
على
part
رصد
of what we
التغيرات.
did.
كانت هذه
So
كشتتنا
those
اليوم.
are
نشوفكم في حلقة
our
جديدة
partners.
مع كشتة جديدة.
You will see them now. See, Ministry of Interior, all the sectors within. And this will be in my presentation, 5 minutes presentation. You will see the effect of having their logos in every episode. This actually will encourage the other ministries and it will encourage, see, you can see them. Okay? Once they are documented like this, others will be encouraged to help. Others will be encouraged to play part in what we're doing. I hope you enjoyed it. Hey, الحين. Yes. Okay. You saw one episode of the series, okay? We spread already a barcode bookmark with barcodes on. You can see all the episodes within the barcode. So to do this documentary, we faced a lot of problems. This is something I started with, is why did we do the documentaries? So in order to educate and give the proper environmental awareness, we decided to do this documentary series. And there are goals of this. It's to raise the awareness in the community, and we need also to focus on the positives and the beauty of the Kuwaiti environment. And also we needed to spread the awareness about the biodiversity, and we needed to simplify the scientific environmental information for the public, and also aware the people about the environment law, and provide a very simple, trusted, revised environmental scientific facts, and also encourage the citizens to believe in the system, to believe in the governmental work. As for capacity building, the episode actually gives a very good training space for the volunteers to learn and to practice monitoring and documenting the creatures and the biodiversity. We also let the youth take part in this. So this is also capacity building. And we also let the children be part of it. Of course, some of the Kuwaiti people who are working in this, we have many teams within KEPS. Some of the problems that we face against the monitoring and documenting, sometimes it's very difficult to reach those areas. You saw most of them are on the borders, okay? Some areas are very difficult to run in a normal car. And because we are volunteers, me, myself, I had already broken my car like 5, 6 times. You have to count how many seasons I did, you will know, okay? So it is very costly. We damage our cars, and the cameras are very expensive. The maintenance of the camera is also very expensive. And we actually work under all weather conditions, whether it was hot, cold, raining, dusty, we are out. And of course, we are trying our best to train the youth with us. Sometimes it's difficult to train the volunteers simply because there is a lack of awareness of how important is this monitoring and documenting. So you will have a lack of people introducing themselves to try it. And of course, it's very expensive to train, and it's expensive for the trainers to get the equipment. We have also problems with trusting the media, because we don't have special people with the media specialty regarding environment. And of course, there is a very big problem with us to face when we need to edit and to produce something as professional as this. It is very costly. For us, this could cost like 1 season, which is only 30 episodes. It could cost more than 64,000 KD. That's multiplied by 3 as dollars. So actually, we don't get that much to do it, but still we do it because most of the people who are working in this episodes and the seasons are volunteers, but they are professional. So they are volunteering with their own time, with their own equipments, and with their own effort. And if we want to know how can the climate change affect our work, well, it is very difficult because now, because of climate change, the timing of the rain season is changed. That's affecting the long dry seasons, so the vegetation is less. That will affect the number of plants that can be documented, especially the periodical plants. So if we want to cut a long story short, these documentary are facing some challenges regarding capacity building. We need more people who are interested in monitoring and documenting. And the cost of the production, and of course the lack of money and funds that goes or directed to the NGOs doing such thing. Those are our partners. This will encourage more to participate. So we're trying our best to have, we try to, I will skip the first, okay. The second one, we are trying to attract the private section by explaining that this is their way to have the green print on the environment, because they are already funding the awareness. And here, those already episodes has won a lot of prizes in some carnivals. And of course, this is one of the Kuwait TV questionnaires. Here you can see that one of the documentary programs, it was highlighted here that it has 63%. They chose a documentary against other programs. Thank you.
Shukran. Thank you, Dr. Wijdan. And this is the benefit of being the last one to talk. You have more time than anybody else. Thank you, Dr. Wijdan. Thank you, Engineer Bilal, Dr. Dheaya, Dr. Mahmoud, and Verdiane, Miss Verdiane. And thank you for your patience. And therefore, now it's your turn. I open the floor for discussion. Either I'll just, two things. You address the person with the question, or you share us with a national-based solution from your own country, region, so that we can learn that these could be the future of overcoming finance and probably as well contributing into building capacities. So I will start with ladies here. I'll take three questions. Dr. Haytham, please. Dr. Ghaida Abu Rumman, and then السيد ثم حضرتك هيثم. تفضلي دكتورة.
Thank you, Dr. Ziyad, for your moderation, and thank you for all the panelists. It was really a fruitful session. I have a question for Dr. Mahmoud and a comment for Dr. Dheaya Alrousan. Dr. Mahmoud, you have mentioned that today there was talking about funded projects and funding from international organizations for eligible Arab world countries. And this means that some of Arab countries are not eligible. We are under the umbrella here of United Nations. All humans deserve and need to be equality concerning climate change. And I think that's the word eligible and non-eligible, we have a discrimination in this word. We hope in your next meetings, international meetings, to put this under consideration, because all of us are humans and all of us deserve to live in a world safely. The other issue that I want to ask you, you have mentioned also that there is some mismatch between the needs of the Arab world and the international funded organizations. What's your opinion? How can we build bridges between both sides in order to get all the benefits from these funded projects? These the questions. And for Dr. Dheaya, thank you very much. Your efforts are highly appreciated concerning the youth, and how you mentioned your work with the youth and give this awareness campaign concerning climate change and all environmental issues. I agree with you that we have a lack of knowledge. We work with the Cyprus Initiative for a task force education and outreach. And what was shocking that more than 35 countries do not mention intensively climate change in their syllabus, since the schools until PhDs. There is a lack of this issue for all schools students, And because of that, we need to put all our efforts for more awareness campaign through changing syllabus and curriculum development. We need curriculum developments for schools and for bachelor degrees and masters and PhD. Thank you very much.
Thank you دكتور غيدة. ممكن ناخذ سؤال ثاني؟ هيثم الأستاذين يعني كمان ناخذ 3 أسئلة. تفضلوا.
Thank you very much for the speakers. I'm Dr. Hassan Al-Shaar from the Desert Research Center in Cairo. I think every Arabic countries has organized many conferences related to the impact of the climate change during the last 3 months or 4 months. And I think also we have the same problems of the impact of the climate change everywhere in the Arabic countries. So each conference should have specific outcomes and lesson learned. For example, in Egypt and in Jordan, in Lebanon, Syria, the same arid countries has typical similar problems related to the impact of climate change. My question is there any exchange program to be transferred from countries to countries? I think it is very important to exchange the lesson learned from how to mitigate the climate change in Egypt should be similar to one in Libya or in Saudi Arabia or in Gulf areas, because they have, as I mentioned, they have similar environmental problems. So it is very important to transfer this lesson learned, to transfer this experience through the Arabic countries league, for example. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Hassan. And I will add a question on the top of what you have said to Bilal. Countries are supposed to conclude national communication reports. This is a compliance into the convention. Bilal may comment on this. I was part of the national team in Jordan. I don't know what has happened. I don't know if we are sharing this with our country, but I think there is a standardized procedures by UNFCCC, but Bilal can as well comment onto this question. Please.
تحية من مصر المحروسة لكل شعوب العالم المحبة للسلام. سؤالي في قمة الالتزام، هل ال 100 مليار كافية 100 مليار دولار كافية لمواجهة التحديات البيئية المتزايدة؟ الجزء الثاني المجتمعات الهشة، وأنا بتكلم عن أماكن اللي فيها الألغام وبتكلم عن أهلنا الطيبين الموجودين المزارعين اللي بيأمنونا غذائيا. هل الجزء المرتبط بالتكيف محتاجين المجتمع المدني يشارك فيه عشان يقدر أهلنا الطيبين يقدروا يواجهوا ويتكيفوا مع التغيرات المناخية المتسارعة؟ شكرا لحضراتكم.
شكرا سيدي. دكتور محمود، the question raised, if he's asking if 100 billions are enough to handle and treat and help vulnerable communities into being able to adapt to climate change. This is the question. Dr. Mahmoud, then Dr. Dheaya, then Engineer Bilal. Dr. Mahmoud, please.
Okay, thank you. Actually, the two questions from Dr. Laila is actually very problematic, as the eligibility criteria is very tricky, and eligibility criteria is not only depending on the economic situations, but also political situations. So how to bridge this, how to deal with this issue? I think we are starting now talking with the Jeff and having support from some Arab countries pushing in this regard to have to solve the criteria for some countries like Palestine, because Palestine is eligible but politically not eligible. So this is the case. The second question, which is also problematic, is how to bridge the gap between the needs and the available finance. We started the Arab strategy for climate finance. One of the main target of this strategy is to bridging this gap. The strategy is having mentioned the main needs in each sector, like industry, health, water, and any other sectors, even mitigation in mitigation or adaptation, and having a matchmaking between between both the needs and the available finance, in order to bridging this gap. This is only part of the effort, not all effort. The other effort is to handling the problem of making a bankable proposal for the financing agency. Other one is negotiating climate finance, because the main climate finance is depending on the loans, not other means of like investment or something else. So we are working on different kind of work to bridging the gap in this regard. That's all that I can.
Thank you, Dr. Mahmoud. Dr. Dheaya.
Regarding regarding the 100 billion, it's not enough. It's not enough.
Thank you, Dr. Mahmoud. Dr. Dheaya.
It's not enough. Even there is a cartoon today in The Economist showing, like, saying, say goodbye to 1.5 degrees, and showing like an apple shot by an arrow. So surely it's not enough. And also considering the vulnerable communities, they are highly affected. And I'm happy to tell you that in the second phase of our project, the Red Sea Net, we are considering the impacts on the vulnerable communities, including fisheries and farmers. So hopefully we will understand more about those. About the question about knowledge transfer, unfortunately, this is totally missing in the Arab countries. We don't have, for example, like Erasmus Plus exchange or mobility program between Arab countries. Hopefully in the future this will happen. And like during my talk, I mentioned that the regional cooperation, I think this is one important issue in the regional cooperation, is to share research, finding, and exchange knowledge. It's more Yes, we should, and this is so important because it works as a, like, let me say, a conveyor and amplifier for the global issue at once. So if you understand things, how they are working in the regional and sub-regional level, you can extend your knowledge and reflect it on the global. It will help the world, not only the region included in that study. Yeah. I don't remember if there's any more questions. I think they are.
This is fine.
Dr. Ghaida, thank you for your comment, and hopefully we can share our findings and work on something regarding that. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Dheaya. Engineer Bilal, what do you think about sharing, knowledge, lessons experienced, lessons learned among the Arab countries, maybe especially the national communication report?
Well, thank you so much. The national communication for Jordan is not set yet. It's still a draft. But once it's finalized, we publish all on the website of the Ministry of Environment, and it is shareable for all. This is something, the other thing, we've updated our climate change policy until 2050, and also it will be on the website. We are so happy to share it. There's lots of shareable documents in Jordan. It has QR codes. It will be found in the office of Jordan at the next to the pavilions. So everything is shareable from our side. The thing that I would like to ask this kind of group, why don't you create some social media group in a way or another, so that you can, from countries, share experiences between each other. And that would help all of you within that. About the question of the finance is estimated to be the needed finance. It's 4 trillion per year from now until 2030. Just in order to.
Thank you, Dr. Dheaya.
If you let me just finish by this, because I mentioned several times the regional cooperation. I think the regional cooperation can work and be beneficial in 4 areas. I mentioned one of them, which is the research and exchange of knowledge and information. Also, it's important in technical assistance and capacity building. It is helpful in leveraging of finance. And the most important thing, it can help in building policy and an agenda setting in the regional level. Those, I think, the most important 4 areas regarding the regional cooperation, and hopefully we'll find something like that among the Arab countries.
Thank you. Second round of questions and last round of questions, because we are about to Dr. Najwa. وين الميكروفون؟ مع مين الميكروفون هيثم؟ في حدا ثاني غير الدكتورة نجوى حاب يعمل مداخلة أو سؤال؟ أوكي، دكتورة نجوى تفضل.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. As a woman, I want to focus, this is not a question, but a suggestion or remarks that as a woman, I want to, that donors and governments focus on women and the crucial role of women on food security and water security. And for this, donors and governments should help women to access to finance, to climate finance, to can implement her project on agriculture, on water collection, and other types of project. For this, I suggest that Arab country maybe should create regulation or amend regulations or laws to help these women, and especially rural women, to can access to finance climate, because she has a crucial role on these issues, and especially on food security and water security. Thanks.
Thank you, Najwa. I have Dr. Michael Sfulus. He wants to make an intervention. ممكن الميكروفون؟
Thank you very much. Actually, I just wanted, after some of the interventions, to give some information, particularly on the regional cooperation, not the cooperation necessarily among the Arab countries, but in the region. There are three levels of this cooperation that some of our organizations, and particularly the Mediterranean Information Office for Environment, Culture and Sustainable Development, which is the big organization, the big federation of practically all the organizations of the region, because we have two pillars, RAED from the south and the European Environment Bureau from the north, plus another 33 organizations that brings together more than 500 organizations representing approximately 6 million people. So it is a sizable, it is an important organization of the region. And we have the cooperation among the members of all these organizations, and a series of workshops, particularly in the areas of education. In the area of education, we have managed until now to train trainers, more than 2,700 professors in schools, primary and secondary, and many also in areas that are focusing on nature conservation, as we had the chance to see the film from Kuwait. What I would like also to mention is that we have the WEST program, the Water Environment Support Program, which is a European program for the non-EU countries. I have the honor to be the team leader of that, and MIO is one of the organizations. And for the last 10 years, we have, with all countries of the South, a large number of activities on water, on reduction of pollution, and in capacity building of administrations, but not only, local authorities and others. I think we need to capitalize on all that. And it is important to somehow share these experiences, quite rightly you said, more among the countries. This is why we have introduced what we call the peer-to-peer exercises. The ministries of environment and water, they appointed 2 persons per country to exchange, guided by experts that we can support. So this is just a small reflection about the things raised. And there are, at the moment, in many of the countries, the emphasis is on financing, on how we can enhance the ability of the countries to handle funds.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, dear. Before I thank each one of you by his name and title, I want to conclude by saying, leaving you with some questions before, and think about these questions. Capacity, do we have gaps in capacity building and financial issues? Yeah, maybe some of the questions had been very clear. There are linkages between impacts of climate change and effective adaptation responses? Things maybe you need to think about. Is nature-based solutions embedded in finance and capacity building? Maybe this is something new.